Well, hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us. Tonight, we focus on the growing concerns following President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's approval of a 15% import tariff on petrol and diesel. The government says the policy will encourage local production and help stabilize prices. But many Nigerians, especially experts in the industry, fear it could push petrol pump prices beyond 1,000 naira per litre, worsening the cost of living. On the program tonight, we'll take a look at the new tariff regime and how it could affect household spending, market competition, and the country's energy security. We'll be speaking to the president of the Petroleum Outlet Retail Owners Association of Nigeria, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, and of course, we'll also be joined by an industry expert, Engineer Yabagi Yusuf, who will give us insight as to the economic repercussions or consequences, the pros and cons of this new directive. But first things first, let's bring you up to speed with the latest political developments in the polity.
President Bola Tinubu has told the new service chiefs that Nigeria is in a hurry to celebrate peace, urging them to deliver results, not excuses. He ordered them to crush new armed groups in the north-central, northwest, and parts of the south, describing them as new snakes that must be smashed in the head. Tinubu spoke during the decoration of the service chiefs at the presidential villa, Abuja. 6 members of the House of Representatives have defected to the All Progressives Congress APC, giving the ruling party a 2/3 majority in the Green Chamber. 5 lawmakers defected from the People's Democratic Party PDP in Enugu State, while 1 left the Labour Party in Plateau. With the new defections, the APC now holds 240 of the 360 seats in the House. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has accused the federal government of sidelining his administration for political reasons. He claimed the center is withholding local government funds meant for Osun, crippling basic services. Speaking through his deputy Kola Adeusi at the Southeast Democracy and Federalism Summit in Ondo, Adeleke said the state was being punished for belonging to the opposition. President Bola Tinubu has approved a 15% ad valorem import duty on imported petrol and diesel. The policy, effective immediately, aims to protect domestic refineries and stabilize the petroleum market. However, analysts warn it will likely push up pump prices. The directive was contained in a letter dated October 21, 2025 and addressed to the FIRS and NMDPRA.
Well, that's it. You're up to date with the latest political developments. Let's zero in on our conversation tonight, which is the 15% tariff that is going to be due on any import on petrol and diesel. Before we bring the panel into the conversation, let's take a look at what we know so far. A quick summary of what the numbers say going forward. So, 15% on imported petrol and diesel. And from the facts of the matter, we understand that 70% of domestic supply is imported. Now, if this tariff is fully passed on consumers, that's Nigerians, average retail prices could rise by 15%. You do the maths, and we're talking about a possible 10.5% increase in pump price. So whatever it is that you're paying right now, assuming, of course, you're paying somewhere between 8 or 950 naira per litre, 10.5% of that, if the market has decided to pass 100% of it to Nigerians, that it will be the effect weeks and months to come. In naira terms, we're talking about roughly 70 to 105 naira per litre, depending, of course, on location. It's going to be likely cheaper in Lagos, as the case is right now. In Abuja and other parts of the country, it may differ because of transportation costs and others. But what does this mean if you factor in all the other variables about the economy? So let's take a look at what Nigerians could possibly be dealing with, especially when we talk about estimated inflation pass-through, because if the impact is to be considered, the ripple effect is quite many. 10% increase in fuel prices usually would add between 2 to 3% points to headline inflation over the next, in the immediate term. So that's 3 to 6 month period. Diesel, of course, as we know it, used for trucking, power generation and food transport, drives secondary inflation faster than petrol because of its industrial use. This is something that we already know as a matter of fact. But all of this is dependent on how much would actually go up in terms of the price of petrol. So with that 15% tariff and limited local refining, the short-term impact, that is the first 3 months, inflation could rise by 1.5 to 2% points, mainly from transportation and logistics. Remember, just this month, inflation came down by 2%. So we could see a reversal of that because of the new 15% tariff. The medium term, which is 4 to 6 months, inflation could climb to between 1 to 1.5%, affecting food, commodities, as well as other services that will likely adjust because of the sudden hike in pump price. And total impact, of course, we could see headline inflation increase by 2.5% to 3.5% if the policy is sustained and fully passed through to Nigerian consumers. There are a lot of variables here, but all of these assessment is within a margin of error. Let's bring in our guest, an industry expert who not only understands the numbers of the market, but also the politics that is playing out, presumably leading to this new import tariff. Engineer Yabagi Yusuf is here with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining the conversation this evening. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Right. The industry is reacting to this. Some are quite mum, Ibman, saying that they're going to meet and decide on their collective position. But individually, we've been hearing from importers who say that, listen, it's going to drive our costs up, but we know how to recoup our funds. Nigerians are going to be the ones who are going to bear the brunt of this. First of all, do you understand why the federal government is deciding to go down this path?
Well, if you look at the whole gamut of policies which Tinubu administration has brought since the first day that he has owned the mantle of leadership of this country, you will see that he is out to introduce a highly geared capitalist system of running government. And the capitalist system is a system that has no milk of kindness. It's to you according to your ability. And in the situation where you have that kind of policy, often than not, it is where the economic structures are strong, meaning that you don't have people that are poor, a majority, as we have it in this country. So that is why you've been having hue and cry, from the citizens, about the punitive measures that have been put in place. Yes, the measures, if you like, yes, they are necessary if we want to get out of the ruts. I mean, if we want the economy to get out of the woods as quickly as possible. But remember, government is not about making profit alone. It's about goodwill also, So I believe it is the highly geared capitalist system of running the system of our economy that informed the decision to jack up or to levy imports, by 15%. According to the explanation, it is taking away any trace of subsidy that is on this product that government is trying to remove so that Nigerians do not enjoy anything that is called subsidy in whatever form or format that it is. So that is what is behind it,
And is this a necessary shock in your view?
Well, to me, like I said before, the president is fond of taking audacious, decisions, right decisions at the wrong time. Where am I saying at the wrong time? Nigerians are yet to wake up, from the adverse effects of the removal of direct subsidy as far as pump price is concerned. So now to go to the source, of the product itself, and now that we know, except for the gift of God, this Dangote, who is producing locally, it would have been a disaster, because local refineries, like government refineries cannot perform. In spite of monies that's been, thrown at them, in billions of dollars, and even the local producers themselves, are not able to really meet the requirement. If you look at diesel, for instance, the price is already pushing above 1,000 naira per liter. So petrol, that's PMS, it's also, like you have said in your opening remarks, that the price is definitely going to go up. What does that mean? It means more inflation. It means more hardship. It means that the Nigerian citizens now will have to pay more for transportation, and that it has multiply effects on all other things that you consume as a matter of everyday living. So yes, to me, I don't know. Might be a good reason, a good decision, but wrong timing.
Right.
I would have thought that government should have looked at the export of crude oil, which we do, which is still FOB, and then try to make it so that the domestic economy will benefit from it as it is now, because we are not able to refine we are still exporting. Change it. Like I know Saudi Arabia, they sell CIF. Now they are trying to tax people that are importing CIF. What about your own export? Make it CIF so that Nigeria will benefit from the cost of transportation and insurance, and also the cost of the product itself, instead of giving it to another country to benefit from. Right. So I feel that the fiscal measure, which is a major fiscal shift that I can see that they have taken, that is taken away from the poor as far as this policy is concerned, and given to the rich, really, And I said, it's okay if you have, an environment where the base of the economy is strong. But here we have weak structures of the economy because the people are weak in terms of their ability to
purchasing power.
Yes.
Right. All right. Let's bring in the national president of PETROAN, people who will be directly impacted by this new tariff. Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry is joining us from his home in Port Harcourt. Thank you so much for taking the time, Dr. Harry. The PETROAN's position on this one, what is your reaction to this?
Thank you. Good
evening.
Thank you. Good evening for having me. And the subject that we're discussing is still, playing up now. PETROAN just rose from a meeting this evening. We just closed the meeting by 6 o'clock. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, as a PETROAN, we just rose up from a meeting this evening by about 6:30 or thereabout, and the subject was tabled. We have to holistically look at the situation before we can make any public statement on this. But the government has gone ahead to announce this policy. And I'm sure that the economic engineers would have worked on numbers that would have given rise to this. So in my opinion, it is too early for anybody to give a very decisive analysis on it that is practical. So we, at the end of the day, we are the ones that are going to bear the brunt of this, because every product, whether it's coming from Dangote, or it's coming from importers, or it's coming from the local refineries, will end up in our retail outlets. And so we would rather just wait for a couple of more days to analyze the situation much more efficiently before we can make a public statement on this. Thank you.
Yeah, some say this is a no-brainer about who the beneficiaries are. I mean, local producers, refiners are the beneficiaries of this because it incentivizes importers to basically just turn their attention inwards so that they don't have to deal with this 15% tariff. How does this work for you, especially regarding options?
Well, like I said, I will just answer some of the questions you have asked, just to be able to help in ensuring that we understand. Oh, Jesus, this product.
Doctor, are you still there? All right, we're going to work back to reestablish our connection to Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, the national president of PETROAN, who's joined the conversation. Obviously, he's saying they have not fully assessed it yet. That's the same body language we're getting from Ipman. And from your reading of this particular situation, we understand that the Federal Inland Revenue Service is responsible for initiating this policy direction, and the president just signed on to it. Do you get a sense that industry stakeholders, people down the supply chain line, have been taken into consideration for this in terms of why this is the best route going forward?
Well, like I say, it's a continuation of what they have started, by way of removing subsidies. And what the FRS is trying to do is to say that you have to align the cost of petroleum products, domestically consumed, with the cost of other non-oil, products that you import. They apply certain fees like the ones they're introducing now. But the question is, that don't forget that oil is a political commodity everywhere in the world. It's a political commodity. So when you tinker with it, it goes far beyond, what happens when you tinker with other products. Yes, you are getting more revenue, but do we equate that with the kind of pains that you now bring to bear on the people? How do you quantify the pains that people are going to go through? And look at the inflation as it is even today. Government has been battling on how to bring down this inflation. People were saying that, we're happy that something is happening in terms of the downward trend that we saw in the rate of inflation. But now you put fire, petroleum fire to again, jack up the inflation in the economy. So it's yes, you get more revenue, like I said, but the revenue, is the running of government is all about revenue? No.
Well, don't you need that revenue for infrastructure, for education funding, for all of the things that Nigeria currently lacks?
When they remove the subsidy on Naira, subsidy on petrol, how much has it really impacted on the people positively? Negatively, it has impacted on the people. So people will be thinking that, I think what should preoccupy the government today, that's why I say right decision at the wrong time. What should preoccupy their mind today is how do we intervene socially, to bring down the pains that, we have brought to bear on the people, by virtue of the draconian policies that you have introduced, which you explain that yes, they're necessary because you want to plug all the loopholes that we have in the system. Good argument. But then, what have you brought up? Palliatives that they call them, targeted, incentives, subsidies, tax subsidies. I call them subsidies, to Nigerians, because that's what other countries do. You can take these very difficult decisions that will be painful for the people, but you again think out of the box. Okay, what do we do to cushion the effects of these harsh policies that we have introduced? Because we see that the bigger picture, it's of a long-term nature. It's better for the country. Do you think the
government sees it as a harsh policy or as a necessary one?
Well, when you listen to them, they tell you that it's painful, but continue to bear the pains.
They say it's necessary if we have to get things right.
Yeah, necessary. Yes, not everything is necessary in life, but why do you have the government? That's why you have government there. It's necessary to earn revenue, to be able to run the economy, to be able to ensure that you are able to meet your responsibilities, to the citizens. But the government is there to make life better for the citizens.
Okay.
So that also is necessary.
Okay. Let's bring back Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, who I believe we have established a connection to him. Nice to have you back, Doctor. Please go ahead with your line of thought regarding the question earlier about the new realities that you have to deal with regarding the cost of doing business and what the immediate repercussions could be?
Sorry, thank you for having me back. And I know the service is a little bit, testy, but we're back now. The reality is that every additional cost to doing business will ultimately be passed on to the final buyer or the final payer. In line with this business of petroleum product, distribution. So for us, every increase of any dimension will certainly impact our buying power, and it will certainly impact the size of business we do. So we certainly will pass it on to the end user, which is in Nigeria. And this is why we do not just want to make armchair statements on this. We want to really do the maths and get some clarifications as to some of the reasons for the policy. So we don't assume, because we're in real time in the business. And we know that it's already, we are finding it difficult to even buy the products as it is today. So when the prices get up, obviously it's going to be much more difficult for us to buy. Our prayer is that we should be strong enough not to let the Nigerian down. That's what I will answer for now.
Right. And talk to me about our import market share in terms of the product available for Nigerians to buy, because according to the latest reporting earlier in the month, it's around 72.64% of the commodity available for Nigerians to buy is imported. So we're talking about more than 2/3 of what's in the market right now imported. So the impact is going to be almost immediate. In talking about local options, is there any chance that local production could offset if a significant amount of players decide to turn inwards for their supply?
Well, the statistics is accurate, because what has happened so far is the percentage of consumption daily is measured, by what is being reported as loaded from the depots. And in real time, there's no subsidy anymore, so nobody's going to play pranks as to what quantity of product that's been lifted. Of course, this is why PETROAN is also working hard to bring our premise technology into play, so that it will help our members to track products, of what they load and what is being sold into the market. Whether we describe it in a flowery term or in the real harsh and real time, like I say, what your guest in the studio is trying to do, the fact is that prices will increase, and it will in fact impact on the economy very dearly, very drastically. So your question as to whether we'll be looking inwards, our first option at any time is to buy up everything that Dangote has produced. And then every other product that is needed will be met by the 72% or 72+% import, completion, if you like to call that, because that's the only way the product is in the stations, as you can see today. So that statistics is accurate.
Right. And in talking about the numbers, right? This time last year,
Yes,
Nigeria reportedly imported around 40.43 million liters per day, translating to about 1.25 billion liters that month, right? While Dangote refinery supplied about 7.09 million liters daily, representing just a mere 14.9% of the total. Now, this similar pattern persisted throughout the months, and I dare say that it hasn't changed much 1 year on. Is there enough locally produced? Because we also understand that Dangote does export some of the products refined at its 650,000 capacity refinery in Lagos. Talk to me about the politics of the industry itself, about how, while Dangote is still producing enough to supply the market, not necessarily take over the entire market share, but how importers have neglected his product to go and import. Does this make it no-brainer that Dangote doesn't have to export anymore, even though he cannot supply the entire market?
Well, you know, Dangote refinery is a private business, and yes, maybe Nigerian government through the NNPC has some shares in it, but majority of the share is run by private businessmen. So I do not see how it's possible for us to investigate the size of business that is being done, you know, daring. We only read in the newspapers or in the news that some product has been exported to Saudi Arabia, some has been exported to America, especially the PMS. So whether that export was made or not, as it is today, you can see that the production comparison between what is produced locally and what we are consuming, you know, is the discrepancy is very far. So that is why import is substituting for it.
Right, and bringing the conversation back into the studio, Engineer Yabagi, as at the beginning of this year, import dependence dropped significantly to 56.3%, with Dangote supplying over 590 million litres, the best performance so far this year. By February and March, that similar trend held strong, with local supply hovering at around 45%. However, production began to dip by May, and domestic supply fell by sharply to around 472 million litres, leaving importers to cover nearly 72% of that shortfall to meet up national demand. Let's talk about energy security, because that is also at the heart of this conversation, right? What are the risks here involved beyond just cost per litre? What are the energy security risks that we're possibly dealing with here if we handicap importers with this 15% tariff?
No, I don't think you are going to handicap importers because, like you said, they have told you, they will pass on the cost to the consumer. It's the citizen, that the motorist now, that will bear the brunt of whatever policies that government is chunking out. You know, what I think the energy security, like you rightly said, is something that, of course, government is very, very concerned about, and I'm sure they are not oblivion of the fact that this is their responsibility. So, but the crux of the matter is that the government is so obsessed with making revenue at all costs, from whatever what they can now explain as legally, or as rational, for them to do. But my argument is that government is not just there for profit making. Government is there for goodwill too. You are supposed to deliver not only this high level, of economic, operation, but with the welfare. How does it impact? And this policy, like the previous one, will only add pains to Nigerians. That is the bottom line. That's the point I want government to understand.
Do you think Nigerians are at a breaking point, or can Nigerians take a 70 or 100% addition to the price of petrol and diesel?
Well, we are resilient, yes, but again, there's a limit to how much human beings can really accommodate, in terms of capacity. And in our own particular case, like we know, everybody knows, the president himself also says it, that Nigerians, are not finding it easy. And he always appeals to the state governors to ensure that, they reach out to the people by way of, extending the huge increase they are now getting from the federation account, allocation. So the FAC, distribution they are given today. So the government is aware, at the level, but what government is not doing is ensuring that this tremendous amount of increase that you are getting from the revenue from subsidy removal in the first instance, they used to get what, about 8 trillion or something like that. Now it's about 17 trillion. I understand that, which means it has doubled what goes to the state. So, but have you seen it, on people? How has it affected us?
You think 2 years down the line, there's no justification for the subsidy removal?
The only justification I can see is that you now have governors, having too much money. I say too much because they are not addressing the basic needs of the citizens. Insecurity is still what it is. Poverty is still what it is. In fact, worse now than what it used to be. And then, so Mr. President may have good intentions, but they said the road to hell is paved with, good intentions too. So now Nigerians are facing hell. So he has to now put more pressure on the state governors where they are giving them all these trillions. What are they doing with it? The trillions are not for them to be dancing all over the place and then taking the money to go and then buy houses or whatever, which they will never live in. So the point is that Mr. President has responsibility to go beyond making revenue. It's so easy, making revenue in an economy like this or in a country. If you have the government, it's easy. It's just a matter of, like they have done with the 15%. Some people who claim to know it, they will bring out some statistics and say, "Oh, this is what we are supposed to be doing. We're not doing it." They're not talking about how they are supposed to deliver social intervention to the people. That we are not doing this. What is wrong with giving transportation sector 20%, a discount? That if you buy fuel from the petrol station, if you are a transport, operator, you get 20% discount, So why are they thinking only about how to increase revenues that is going down the drain, drain pipe? So that is the question. They are being lazy. They are just thinking that, okay, we have revenue. They come and then the Minister of Finance will come and tell you, oh, we have our GDP or something like that, has increased and this and that. So we should begin to address the number one responsibility of government as per the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't talk about revenue per se. It says welfare and security. That's what the Constitution says. So it's not about you declaring some bogus amount of money that you have made out of people. Of course, you'll be making this bogus of money, but from what? Right. From the blood and the tears of the people?
You don't think it's worth it?
So long it's not impacting on the people positively, it's not worth it. That's what government is all about. That's the point I'm making.
Oh, all right. Okay. The government
they are not private organizations. I mean, if it's a private organization that you are there for profit making, fine. You have to declare profit. But this is not for profit making. Government is not about profit making. It's about delivering welfare, goodwill to the people.
All right. Bringing Dr. Gilly back into the conversation. Nigeria is Africa's largest oil producer, but we still struggle in terms of supplying our local refineries, whether it's Engr or other refineries in the sector, with adequate feedstock. Engr refinery, for example, take last year, imported nearly 20% of its own feedstock, crude oil, from the United States, which obviously underscores the security challenge of securing local crude oil supply for our local refineries. And it begs the question then, isn't this whole policy direction, a bit counterproductive? Because if your largest refinery is importing more than 80% of its feedstock from the international market, I mean, obviously it also affects how much they price the product when they come to sell it, whether it's locally or internationally. What are we dealing with here in terms of all of the variables, all things considered? Because local refineries also need feedstock that might not necessarily be 100% available.
Well, that's a subject that has been very robustly debated and explanations made. We just left the National Assembly only a few weeks ago, where most of these information were, drilled totally by all sides of the divide, by NOPRIC, by NNPC, by Dangote, by PETROAN, by all the organizations that were there in that event. And it was clear that there is need to review our policies and utilize the National Assembly to review some of the laws and some of the policies that have, some of the legislations that have hitherto been, approved. Because if we're producing crude oil, and today we have a refinery like Dangote that's estimatedly supposed to be doing 650,000 barrels per day, we should be able to produce at least 1 billion barrels of crude oil per day, strictly for domestic refining. So these are some of the things that I believe that is, in the front burner for changes to be made. I'm fully aware that the National Assembly is working on this. So that is what it is.
And in terms of bridging those gaps, clearly you say you're still studying this new import tariff figures and what it would actually do to the markets. But give me an understanding of how much input your association has had in terms of determining whether you think this is the right step or not. You're all about your profit margins, I understand that, but were you at any point in time consulted, or did you take part in deliberations about the percentages and whether this is the right move to make?
Well, I made a comment a few days ago at the Oil Trading and Logistics Conference in Lagos. And our Petron's position was very clear that some of these type of policy shifts should be a matter of stakeholder debate, so that we can bring grassroots experience and grassroots pains and grassroots reviews and expectancies to the table to enable the economic spin doctors to be able to make their decision on what should pay for Nigeria. And I can understand Engineer Yabagi's position. I can see the size of concern that he has expressed, and I do agree with some of them, not all, but most of them, I do agree with them. The PETROAN did not make any input into that conversation. But some companies that made those input are part of our, our business partners. So maybe whilst the discussion was going on, it was thought that it should be designed in a way that it will protect the local refineries and ensure that at all times the local refineries will have sold off their product before import products were set in. So again, we still need to study the dynamics of what has happened, and that's what I said earlier. I would not like to make statements that have not been thoroughly, subjected to how we operate in PETROAN. In PETROAN, we have technical advisors, special advisors, special economic groups, groups that are specifically designed to study most of all this. And like I said, we just rose up from a very critical meeting today to mourn the loss of a very important loss we had. We lost our vice president, a vice chairman in River State, and today we had to replace that officer. So it's still a little bit of a sober and a mourning moment for us. But hopefully by Monday, all the reports that we need would have come in, and we can make some very strong and categorical advice as to how these policies can affect Nigerians positively, we believe.
Accept our condolence regarding the loss of your member. Just to double down on some of the concerns raised by Engineer Yabagi, do you share his views about the energy security risks that could arise from this new policy direction?
Well, we without it, it's not brainer to know that when when higher cost is applied to doing business, chances of even accessing capital to ensure that there is petroleum product availability becomes subject to some level of probability. So I share his view of the concern that our energy provision may somewhat suffer if we do not, carefully analyze the entire dynamics and work out a process on how we can solve, because 15% tariff increase, 10%, we can't be banding figures like this. That is a concern for me. But like I said, I want my team to really work on the details and drill down on it before we can be able to make categorical statements on any of this. Thank you for listening.
Engineer, you bring it back into the conversation. Let's talk about zooming out a little bit to look at the international market itself. Nigeria is one of the top performers, OPEC members, and you consider Saudi Arabia, Russia, Venezuela, and all the other top oil producers, right? They do not have what we currently have as far as a standalone import tariff on refined products. Where does that put us in the grand scheme of things about the top players, the highest producer on the continent, but also in the international market? It appears Nigeria is alone in this policy direction. What do you make of it?
Well, what I make of it is that, like I said, the government is obsessed about making revenue, no matter what the cost may be to the people. And as a crude oil producing country, yes, nobody wants to continue with the regime we had before of whole-scale subsidy, which has been removed now. But to now go to the extent of equating, oil with other products, like I said, oil, every country is a political commodity. It has political, social, economic implications when you touch the price of, because it has multiplier effects, in the economy. So this is why governments are always very, very careful when it comes to issue of how you tinker with the price of oil, sold domestically. So I think the government may need to really, even if they can reverse the policy, they need to come up with something that will cushion the effects of this on the people, the nationals. That is the point I'm making. And plus the fact that, okay, if you are importing 72%, of the domestically consumed petroleum products, and you say you are applying this tariff in order to align it with, what happens to other commodities in the country, and you said in the same breath that you are trying to encourage local production. Refineries are not something that you wake up today and then in the next 2, 3, 5 years, you have it running. It's not like that. So, and even the ones that they have given license to produce, they are not able to give them the crude oil that they require, because most of our crude oil has already been mortgaged to some, supporting some loans that we have taken, which is being, you give crude oil for the repayment of the loans, which goes for some years. So now, where are we going to get the crude oil to sufficiently, produce the local requirement, that will be sufficient to supply?
So you think if local refineries still have to import crude oil,
yes,
it cancels out whatever benefit this
of course it does.
This could have?
Yes. Except if they are saying that it does not cover crude oil importation.
I mean, yes, they're saying only refined products.
Okay, only refined products.
Right.
Okay, fine, only refined products. But then, only refined products, how many refineries really are working today? You know, and who created this situation where we are not able to refine the product locally? Is it Nigerians?
I mean, to scale.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because we still have modular refineries, the Dangote refinery is
yes,
there.
the Dangote refinery is there, and Port Harcourt maybe, I don't know, when that will start working, you know, in the real sense of it, and the Wari, Kaduna, and all these things. But why is Nigerians have to bear this brunt in the manner we are bearing, you know? Why don't government now beam the searchlight on NNPC itself and those who are responsible for bringing those refineries to the states they are today of non-operationality, you know, and then deal with the situation there. So like you talk about the energy security, it's a clear specter that if care is not taken, it may backfire this process. Revenue, yes, you get revenue, but what about peace and stability of the country? You need that too. And definitely, you know, the government, democracy needs people to feel the dividends of it, right, isn't it?
But we've also seen some of the directives of the administration reversed. I mean, much of its political objectives or through its reforms have not been reversed. But do you think this is open for maybe further consultations? We've seen the administration reverse some of its political decisions, but on the economy, for instance, it has been single-minded about tax reform, subsidy removals, and there's been no going back since then. Do you fear that this is a closed case, that there is not going to be any reversal whatsoever?
Well, given the kind of posture of the government towards revenue mobilization, you know, for the economy, perhaps I'm not sure if you will get any reverse, you know, on the policy. But government is an omnipotent. Maybe
the percentages could be lowered. I mean, we've seen some amendments to the tax
I understand,
reform.
but there are so many ways government can really, you know, help. You know, if you think there is a economic dislocation in terms of what you are losing, you know, which to me is imaginary. Really, it's not real, because what you are saying is because other products in the domestic economy, you know, you are not, you know, that is not aligned. You know, oil is not aligned with other products. You could, oil is not aligned, yes, because oil is different. You know, which other product is as important to an average Nigerian like oil? There's none. So the point is that if government is not going to reverse it, they must introduce something, you know, that will give Nigerians the succor, you know, to be able to withstand, you know, the effects, the harsh effects of the policy.
Right.
You know,
okay.
It's in our interest. You know, I mean, we are interested. We want a stable, you know, environment. We want democracy to really be the darling of Nigerians. We don't want it to look as if it's a punitive system of government. No, which is not.
Okay. Dr. Gillis-Harry, let's bring you in before we wrap things up. Engineer Yabagi talked about the moribund refineries, Warri, Port Harcourt, Kaduna. The NNPCL Group Chief Executive had something to say the past couple of days, talking about how the company is assessing the operational and commercial viability of the three major refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna. I mean, we've talked about these refineries over and over again. It's almost sounding like a broken record. Where do they fit in as part of the solution, in your view, if we have to talk of a grand plan to really find a lasting solution to this question about local refining capacity?
Ensuring that these Nigerian refineries are
It looks like we've lost our connection again to Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. We have under a minute to spend, so I'm going to throw that question because you look very keen about answering it.
Yes, I said, you know, I mean, in some countries you find that groups like Billy Harry's group, you know, are brought into the production. You know,
and we had earlier on in the week, called on Dapman and the rest to
to come and partake.
Put their money where their mouth is.
Right. Exactly. That's what should happen, because they are the best group of people that should be operators of these refineries. They have acquired, experience as far as distribution and what have you of these assets, which is very important asset to the country. It's only in Nigeria that you witness this kind of thing. These are assets that supposed to represent one of the legacies that government upon government will leave for the citizens of this country. So I think NNPCL, yes, but going by the record, going by what has happened, I don't think in the manner that you have the structure of the management of NNPCL is today will guarantee the operationability of those refineries without bringing in stakeholders, key stakeholders like PETROAN and DAPMAN and others like that to come into, they may not own everything, but let them have shares. Let them be given shares.
You think it should be concessioned?
Yeah, I think so. It should be concessioned, even if we are not selling outrightly, those assets. It should be concessioned, and people like him, should be brought into the picture. So they can get partners. Really, I'm telling you.
Right. All right. Still early days. The announcement has just been made public, but of course, it looks like this is the new regime that we're going to be dealing with. Anybody importing petrol or diesel will have to deal with that 15% tariff until the situation changes. Fantastic analysis as always, Engineer Yabagi Yusuf. Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you, Abdullahi, for having me.
I appreciate you very much for stopping by. And we'd like to appreciate Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry, also the president of PETROAN, unable to get his last thoughts on that question. But Doctor, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Unfortunately, we are out of time.
It's okay. There's always another day to review things. Thank you.
Right. And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. Daily Politics returns tomorrow live on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed and the rest of the team. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.